This information is very preliminary and is subject to change. We want to give you and the public as much information as quickly as possible. So at approximately 1:21 p.m. this afternoon, we received reports of a fire on the east side of Canfield Mountain. Fire assets responded to the scene, and at approximately 2 p.m. this afternoon, it was reported that firefighters were receiving shots fired at them. We now have 2 deaths. We have an unknown amount of casualties. We still have civilians that are coming off of that mountain. We might have civilians that are stuck or in shock on that mountain. So this is a very, very fresh situation. We are actively taking sniper fire as we speak. This is an active situation. We have multiple agencies that are on scene from local and federal authorities, and we are prepared to neutralize this suspect who is currently actively shooting at public safety personnel. We are prepared to neutralize this suspect as quickly as possible. And that's really all that we know as of right now. We don't know who the suspects are. We don't know how many there are. So I know that it's very, very, very early, and I don't think that any questions would yield anything.
We are following breaking news tonight. Multiple firefighters have been shot in Idaho, and at least 2 people are dead. This is happening in Coeur d'Alene at Canfield Mountain, a park with hiking and bike trails. This is right on the border between Washington State and Idaho. Officials say firefighters were responding to a brush fire, and officials just had a press conference a little while ago where the sheriff said law enforcement officers are still actively taking rapid sniper fire. I want to bring in CNN's senior law enforcement analyst and former Washington, D.C. Police Chief Charles Ramsey and former Boston Police Commissioner Chief Ed Davis. Chief Davis, I want to start with you because, look, still a very much active scene. They're saying they're taking active sniper fire. They believe it is coming in rapid fire as well. Can you just talk to me about how you are assessing what we know so far from this situation?
Hi, Omar. Certainly. This is sort of a police department's worst nightmare. You have someone in a heavily wooded area, and they're a distance away from any populated locations. So you have to move assets into the area to respond to the threat. And our SWAT teams are very well trained. They can operate in any kind of territory, so they're not unused to operating in a wooded area. We had a similar type incident in New Hampshire about 20 years ago where the police responded very quickly and effectively. But you really need to have air assets and the ability to move in what essentially are ground troops to go after something like this. This is more a military operation than the typical police SWAT response that we're used to.
And Chief Ramsey, just on that point, trying to bring in additional resources, what are the conversations like right now if you are the local police chief, you're the local sheriff, and you are trying to get additional resources in? What are you calling in? What helps in a situation like this?
Well, jurisdictions train together and they have mutual aid agreements. This is close to the border near Washington, so I'm sure they probably have reached out that far to try to get some additional assets. You have federal agencies that are responding, so they're going to have a lot of assets available to them. Problem is, as Ed mentioned, it's very difficult. This is a heavily wooded area. You have at least one shooter. And again, the sheriff didn't mention whether or not they were getting sniper fire simultaneously in different directions, or could this be one person changing positions and firing from different positions to give the appearance that there's more than one shooter. There's a lot of unknown questions, and I imagine you have some wounded people there that cannot be evacuated because of the dangers. So this is a very dynamic scene. They'll be using air assets, they'll be using ground, they'll be using dogs, they'll be using everything at their disposal to try to zero in on this person or persons that are responsible for this. But this could go on for a while, unfortunately. And as it gets dark, it becomes even more challenging.
And just to give our audience an idea of the urgency of the situation, we were listening to the local sheriff there earlier, who said, quite literally, "I'm hoping someone has a clear shot." That is the level of consideration where they are right now as they try to identify, again, if it's one shooter, if that's changing locations, as Chief Ramsey just laid out, or if it's multiple shooters firing from different locations. It is really in an evaluation stage right now, trying to figure out what the situation actually is. And Chief Davis, look, a shelter-in-place order is in effect, but I can imagine some of the major considerations here when you're trying to secure a scene is also trying to make sure the scene doesn't spill over into civilian areas, into residential areas, trying to sort of contain, I guess, that level of danger. What are those conversations typically like at this stage in an incident like this? And I guess, where do you start on that front?
Well, it's very similar to things that we've seen in the past, and one of the big issues, as Chuck said, bringing in air assets for command and control could be an extremely important part of this. I've seen a helicopter on scene already, but the big thing is trying to lock this place down. You don't want this guy to somehow escape from the area. And to your point, Omar, going into places that haven't been affected yet. So one of the big issues is a perimeter, and that's clearly fundamental to what we do in a situation like this. But a perimeter takes a lot of staffing, so it's a matter of moving resources into the area. And unlike the military, which can move large numbers of people around, they have the air assets to move small units into combat. Police helicopters don't have that kind of capacity. You might get 2 or 3 people, but you're not going to get sufficient numbers to set up a strong perimeter. So a lot of it depends on the terrain. A lot of it depends on how many people they can get in there and the equipment that these people have. These are high-powered rifles that are being used. Handguns don't do the trick in a situation like this. You need to have similar type of weaponry that's being used against you.
And, as we can clearly see, that the local police and sheriff's department will be scaling up the resources they use to try and respond to this, given the gravity of the situation that we are looking at. Again, 2 people killed at this point, as we understand from the sheriff. Chief Ramsey, we've also heard from the deputy director of the FBI saying FBI assets are headed to the scene in Coeur d'Alene to provide tactical and operational support, emphasizing it's an active scene, as we've also heard from some local officials there on the scene. What exactly does tactical and operational support mean when you have the FBI coming in to assist what we've already seen happening at the local level?
Well, I mean, they have their version of SWAT in the FBI. They have other assets that they can bring to bear to try to, again, locate this individual. That's the most important thing. As Ed mentioned, trying to establish a perimeter is difficult under normal circumstances, let alone in an environment like you're talking about right now. And it doesn't sound like they really know exactly where this individual is. So it's going to make it even more difficult. But certainly the FBI, the ATF, all those federal agencies are very, very skilled in trying to neutralize a situation, locate an individual. They have the skill, they have the expertise to do it. And one thing I need to just make clear, because it's been mentioned a couple times when the term neutralize has been used, this is not a de-escalation type of situation. This is an active shooter, a sniper. He's killed 2 people. Lord knows how many other have been wounded and perhaps even killed that they can't get to. If they get a clear shot, they're going to take it. And that's just the way it is. But they've got to locate this individual. They have got to stop the killing, period. And whatever it takes to do that is what they're going to do.
And again, as we've heard from the sheriff, that seems to be the #1 priority right now. Again, as he just laid out plainly as he was speaking to reporters. If someone has a clear shot in regards to his law enforcement folks, he wants them to take it.